Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV.com now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we take the time to break down some of those big headlines coming from Washington, D.C. and Atlanta to see how it's impacting us right here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. As always, we're joined by WSAV Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer, joining us from Washington, D.C. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you for having me, as always.
Oh, thanks so much. Again, another busy, crazy week. So that's really good. We saw the RNC is now starting to kick up. Last night, they just announced their list of speakers for the week. But before we break into that even more, let's talk a little bit and recap last week, the DNC. It was historic, to say the least. I mean, you covered it for some of the nights, a lot of the nights last week, you covered it. And it was completely virtual. We saw a virtual roll call from across the country, which actually was pretty cool, I will say. It was some cool editing from our perspective. We saw a lot of pre-recorded speeches. Some were live from all parts of the country, it seems. And Kelly, recap it for us from your end. What did you hear from some of our representatives about how it went? Obviously, we know that the nominee now is the Biden-Harris ticket, which we all know that we're going to have. But I think what we were looking forward to more was seeing how the party was going to put it together. And I think it worked out pretty well. So, Kelly, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they had that first go at this virtual convention, unprecedented, unconventional convention, and they knew they were going to go with this platform for quite a long time, so they had that time to plan for it. And really, it did go off without really many hitches or glitches. We saw South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn last Monday night, Alabama Senator Doug Jones, I was covering them, just sharing their message to the American people about who Joe Biden is. Clyburn had that famous saying, I know Joe, but more importantly, he knows us. It was what he said when he endorsed Joe Biden and what he said again on Monday night, bringing it back to Joe knowing those voters, knowing the people across America. So it was really the Democrats making their case for why you should go and vote for the Biden-Harris ticket in November. But like you said, it was a mixture of pre-taped and live hits, which they got a taste of what we do, where we're cued and they have to go on time. So you saw some different glitches with that maybe, or a pause or a jump start. But otherwise, it really went off without a glitch. And the roll call, like you mentioned as well, really got some favorable remarks that they like seeing the roll call come in across the country. Might be something they keep on with. So it definitely will be interesting to see if that roused the base as they wanted, if it got people excited for November. And now it's the Republicans' turn to take over. And they did have a little bit less time to plan because, as you know, we've covered and talked about on the show, they were going to be doing this in person for quite a long time. And they still kind of are. You're going to see them do the roll call in person in Charlotte with over 300 people going in. The RNC spokeswoman, Liz Harrington, told me that they were tested before they got on the plane and they're going in. But they're going to do a mixture of in-person, not so much pre-tape, because what President Trump was saying, he wants more live. So it's going to be a mixture of D.C., Charlotte, as you know, the White House speech happening this week. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Republicans do for this convention. I spoke to the committee man for the GOP in Georgia, and I talked to him, I think, on Wednesday or Thursday, and he was saying, yeah, he's packing his bags, he's getting ready to head out to Charlotte, getting a COVID test, all that kind of stuff. He was really excited, and he was just talking about how the whole point of the convention from the Republican side is he just hopes and that the base is able to get invigorated and able to get excited as we get closer and closer to the to election day in November. God, it's like right around the corner, Kelly. We've been talking about it for months, and it's literally like it feels like it's 2 days away at this point. But let's hear from that committeeman right now.
They're excited to reelect President Trump because of all his accomplishments, and that's what we're going to see when we see this virtual stuff from the RNC are his accomplishments.
And again, you just heard from the Republican committee person for the state of Georgia. So yeah, I think that Republicans are just really trying to keep up that. I think something big, and I think we'll go into talking about the lineup. We have some big local politicians who are going to be in the lineup tonight for speaker. But something not surprising, actually, is, the president's speaking every night. He's speaking every single night. And we all know that one of the president's greatest strengths is his ability to whip up his people, get them excited, get them energetic about going out for the polls and standing up for what they believe in and what he is preaching. So I think that's going to be a big part of it, not just from all the other speakers in the party and government and whatnot, but especially from the president, is to be able to whip up that energy. So, Kelly, who are some of the local representatives, local lawmakers, local senators, Republican representatives that are going to be speaking tonight as the week goes on?
Well, that's the information we were waiting for so long. They just announced the schedule of the lineup for each night just yesterday afternoon. So we immediately tweeted that out. We're looking at the list. We have South Carolina Senator Tim Scott coming up tonight. He's the only Black Republican, so he's going to be speaking on behalf of Trump. I'm not sure if that's coming in from D.C. or back in South Carolina. I know they have an auditorium here in Washington they're going to do some live things from. Like I was telling you, they want to have it be a bit more live in person. So I'm curious to see where he's going to be doing that. So we'll reach out to his team today. We also have Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who's a big Trump supporter. Like we said before the call, endorsed a lot of GOP candidates in the Florida primary last week that won. So he is going to be touting the president's agenda as well. We have Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who last week had said he wasn't going to go and then reversed and said he would. So it was interesting to see the change. But what's interesting too is there was a release from the Biden-Harris campaign this morning that said there's going to be a number of GOP members that come out in support of Biden-Harris today, completely counter-programming the RNC. And one of them is the former Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, who we know was very outspoken against Trump, and other members from across the country. So I can get you that list too, so you could take a look at. But really interesting to see. And then on top of that, just last night, the Republican National Committee said that they didn't really have a platform for this year, that they're just going to rely on what the president's platform has been for the past 4 years. And there's been some interesting articles and criticism and feedback surrounding that the GOP doesn't have a focus this year. So interested to see if they come out with a clear message after this week.
I think it's really interesting that, to be completely frank, I feel, and again, this is my humble opinion, I think we're seeing a lack of a platform on both sides. We're seeing Democrats' main argument being removing Trump. And we're also seeing Republicans basically just saying, keep him in office. We're not really getting into the weeds like we did in 2016, where the Democratic Party had to come together over things like affordable health care, over things like universal college and tuition-free college for people. Those sorts of Bernie Sanders ideas that kind of brought the party a little bit more left. But also on the reverse end of the spectrum, we were seeing some of those, at times, xenophobic and some radical ideas coming from now President Trump when he was a candidate that kind of brought the party a little bit farther right. So I think it's just an interesting comparison and contrast of 2016 to now, and seeing how we're not really hearing a lot more about policy. We're just really hearing about people. I actually was really shocked when you said, when you talked about the list of GOP lawmakers that are coming out against the president. I mean, we are actually hearing the reverse in the convention. I saw on the lineup, I was reading the lineup yesterday, we're actually hearing from an Atlanta state representative, I believe his name is Vernon Jones, who is a Democrat, an African-American Democrat, who supports the president. So he's going to be speaking at, I forget which day of the convention, but he's going to be speaking as well. So, I mean, Kelly, it's just, we're seeing such an interesting lineup and an interesting butting of heads over the last 2 weeks as the conventions were, started going on. What are you hearing from lawmakers, if you've spoken to any of our Republican lawmakers, about their thoughts going into this convention, not just around the ideologies, the platform, but what they're feeling going into Election Day?
Yeah, I mean, I talked with Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida last Wednesday when he just found out the news that he would be one of the speakers this week. And he said he was excited to tout the Trump agenda, to do whatever he can do to get the president reelected and other members that are running on his platform elected in states across the country. I also talked with a congressman from North Carolina, G.K. Butterfield, a Democrat, who said that the DNC was the best convention he's ever seen. And I think it was an interesting point. Like you said, they both were kind of attacking each candidate rather than maybe focusing on the issues. And that's what Kellyanne Conway came out and said on Friday, that the biggest words, or the two most used words you heard at the DNC last week, were not Joe Biden, they were Donald Trump. And she came out and made that point, of course, overnight, breaking news with her that she's going to be leaving the White House at the end of the month to focus on her family. So that was an interesting stir for us over here in Washington, but she will still be speaking this week. But we have a little bit more from the RNC spokeswoman, Liz Harrington, about what you can expect this week.
Hollywood's not producing it. It's everyday Americans that are producing it. And that's what I think will come across. This is a project for every American. This is an agenda for every American. It won't be a complete and total schedule, because there will be surprises, because we want to keep people engaged and we want to really have a great celebration for our country.
Again, you guys just heard from RNC spokeswoman Liz Harrington about the convention. Again, it's going to be televised on all of the major networks. You can see it this week on WSAV News 3, I'm sure, at night. I think it's around the same time as it was last week for the DNC, right, Kelly? Around like 10, 9.
Exactly. It's going to be from about 9 to 11. And what she added there was that you can expect surprises between 10 and 11 each night. So we'll see what
surprises. That's gonna get me watching it, honestly. Surprises going on. So again, before we go, we had really two big weeks this week and last week with the political conventions going on. But obviously, the thorn in everyone's paw this year, COVID-19. Kelly, really quickly, I want to just discuss what is the latest update on the relief bill. It kind of fizzled out. There was a last-ditch attempt before August recess, and then we didn't really hear anything. I was talking to one of my producers today, and he was even saying to me, what is going on with the relief package? Because then we just started hearing all of the news about the conventions and about Joe Biden selecting Kamala Harris and, President Trump speaking out against the DNC. And so nobody really has been talking about this relief package, which so many Americans need. Kelly, what's the latest updates on it?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. And, let me break it down like this. Basically, we had this vote this weekend in the House on the USPS, the Postal Service funding. So a lot of the Republican members and also some Democrats were pushing Speaker Pelosi to take up a vote on something COVID related. They were bringing them back to vote on the post office funding. They were saying, let's take care of something that's in this COVID relief bill. As we know, they voted on the HEROES Act back in May. The Democrats did. They sent that to the Senate. They said it was, of course, too high. So they're willing to negotiate on a price. But what I had heard from some Democrats was that they were looking to vote on the unemployment insurance benefit portion on Saturday. They were tossing that around. Obviously, they did not do that. But yes, exactly. Like you said, there's still plenty of people waiting for support, evictions, the unemployment benefits, stimulus checks. People are waiting to hear, and no one is here right now. And I think the attention has turned to the DNC and RNC. And I asked lawmakers that, you're trying to celebrate and get excited for November, but when there's so many people who are in need, and they say they recognize that, and they both say they want to get back here and do something. But again, just like you said with President Trump and Joe Biden, it's just up against each other. And it's the same thing with Democrats and Republicans here, and they haven't really come together to make that deal. So we're waiting for that. They will return after Labor Day. I would say expect something, but you really just don't know.
And I think it's devil's advocate here. I mean, they are running for president during a pandemic, which really nobody has had to really deal with to this extent in modern times. So obviously that does present a challenge of the balance between campaigning and the balance between, evoking true not electoral, but legislative changes to try to be able to support the public. So that's definitely a challenge, but at the same time, their voters aren't going to be as likely to come out and vote for them if they don't see them talking and speaking now about how they're going to be able to provide relief. Again, we're going to just hope. We're going to just hope that lawmakers are able to come together soon and be able to get this package going. And when they do, We'll be here for everybody watching. We'll break it apart as we do every week. Thanks, as always, to Kelly Meyer for being here, helping us get a look into next week, especially these last 2 busy weeks of the convention. Thanks so much, Kelly.
Happy to. Thank you for having me.
Of course. You can see more of Kelly's stories on our website. Just go to wsav.com/Washington. You can watch previous episodes of All Politics Are Local as well right now. Catch up. It's at wsav.com/allpoliticsarelocal. Thank you so much again for watching. I'm John Dowding. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.